Because days is getting shorter and it's also getting colder, we've had to change what we do from what we was doing only a few months ago. So we've changed the types of plants that we're growing. We've switched over from those summer crops to winter hardy ones instead. So we know when we put them outside in those beds, they'll be perfectly fine. And then we've got bits and bobs going on in here as well. Again, cold hardy things. But because there's not as much to do at this time of year, I like to fill my time inside as well. So we've got one of these racks, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it indoors and I'm going to use it for growing microgreens. With just a little adapting, it'll work perfectly well. We've also got a window where the sun comes in, so this can stand on the table and it can get natural light when it needs it, because they don't always need light when you're doing microgreens, only at a certain point. And we're going to grow them in these trays. So they're a good size, they've got all holes in bottom and they fit just right on these racks. So we can easily get 3. So that's 3 different types of microgreens. But then we can also do them on the bottom. And this rack's about 3 foot, so it's not taking a lot of space up either. So that's 6 different types of microgreens we can grow in that small area. And when you're growing microgreens, when you first start them off, you overseed these trays. You put lots and lots of seeds in so they come up in a big bunch. But you also need to cover them up so there's no light. So just to pop something like that on top of your trays. Then those plants can't get any light. And this is the total opposite of what we've been doing all year. We've been trying to prevent as plants getting leggy by making sure they get enough light. Any that got leggy, we just buried them deeper to get rid of that legginess. But when you're doing microgreens, you need leggy plants. So basically what you're going to be doing is filling these trays with your small amount of compost. You don't need a lot. You don't have to fill these trays because they're not going to be in there very long. And then you'll overseed those trays, and then you'll be covering every one up so it gets no light at all. And those seeds will germinate perfectly fine in dark. But once they leave that compost, because there's no light, they're going to stretch. And you want them to stretch to about 2 to 3 inches tall. And then once they reach that stage, you just take those off so they get light. And obviously at this time of year, you can't really rely on sunlight, so you're going to have to provide artificial light for them. And I use these LED lights. 6,500 Kelvin is the brightness of these, which is perfect for your plants. And they're only 18 watts, so they're taking no electricity. There's more nutrition in these tiny seedlings than there is in the full grown plant. And that's why they're called superfoods. And you can grow them out of virtually any vegetable that you want. So also, when you're doing these microgreens, you've got to bottom water them. So you're going to need a tray to stand this tray in. And then you can just pop a little bit of water in and bottom water all your seedlings. If you don't, it's going to cause problems with fungus. And also, if you top water seedlings, you're going to start to flatten them. And the idea is to get them to grow upright and strong. So once you've got your seedlings in there and they're all nicely growing, what you need to do is weight them down. Because if you weight them down, they're going to push harder to grow upwards. And that's going to result in straighter seedlings. That's your tray with the holes in, growing your seedlings. You pop that on top so it's pressing down, and you can add a little bit of weight to that as well, because there's so many plants in this area, they will still push that tray up. And then that stands in that other tray for bottom watering. And then that's your full setup. So over the course of a few days, all these seeds will germinate, and then that tray will start to lift up. with the density of seedlings that's underneath it. But you still leave it covered. Make sure it's still got enough water. And what will happen is this tray will just start to go up and up. And when it reaches the top of the tray that it's sat in, then what you need to do is take the tray off, flip it and put it back on top. You're still covering these seedlings up, not allowing any light to get in there. So then they'll start to grow upwards and they'll stretch. Once they hit the top of this tray, you can take it off. And then your seedlings are going to be about this tall. That's when they need light, because they're either going to be white or yellow, depending on the seeds that you use. They won't have any colour as such. They'll not be greening up. So then you need to turn your lights on and give them as many hours of light as you can a day, because you want these plants to carry on growing but also greening up. And once they get to the size that you're happy with, that's when you can harvest them. So we're going to be doing 6 on this one rack. So we'll need 6 of those bottom watering trays, 6 seed going trays, and then 6 black art trays. And then you've got a really good microgreen setup that's not going to cost a lot of money for you to run it. But as I said, these need lowering. We don't want them too far away from the actual seedlings, so they get that maximum amount of light per day. And that's the ones that we've been doing in very small containers. And you can see that these have reached a certain height. You can just let those keep growing. These have been exposed to light, so they've greened up now. So if you wanted to, you could harvest those now. And this is an even denser planted one. Again, we've done on a small scale. The difference with this is, if you look at the bottom, you can see the roots trying to come through. But you'll also notice it's on a paper towel. There's no compost in here whatsoever. And they've still grown perfectly fine. So anything that holds water to any degree, you could use rather than compost. And then you'll end up with even cleaner harvests. If you wanted to, scale it down to suit yourself. Just get these little ones. Make sure you drill holes in the bottom of them. And you can get 3 in an average size tray. So 3 different varieties of microgreens. So I'm going to get this stand adjusted to the height that I want and sort out all these trays. And if you're using trays that you've been using in your garden, make sure you completely scrub these clean. You don't want any germs in these whatsoever. So we'll give them a good soaking in boiling water and scrub them out. So I think what we'll do with this is we'll do 3 trays with that small amount of compost in. And make sure you use very fine compost as well. You don't want any lumps or stones in it, so you might need to sift it first. And then you need to flatten that compost down so it's perfectly level. So all your seeds are all growing at the same level. And then the top one, we'll use some other type of medium, like paper towels or maybe something a little bit thicker. Anything that absorbs water will work. So I'll get this rack sorted out and then we'll be moving it indoors. And then we'll start sowing all the seeds and get these microgreens started. And if you want to follow up progress of this indoor growing through autumn winter, then just hit the subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and we'll see you on the updates. You all take care. Thank you very much for watching.